Greetings, one and all. Welcome to another edition of Lembit Opik Limited here. Lembit Opik live, not limited, live. It's unlimited here on unprecedented TV, where we find the facts, kill the spin, and tell it like it is all around the world. Today, we're going to be talking about Keir Starmer's decision, odd decision, some would say, to go to Egypt, Sharm el-Sheikh, to apparently try to attend some kind of a peace celebration invited by Donald Trump. Before we go there, though, thanks very much for all of you who are viewing, and more than anything, for your continued support when it comes to the ever-growing numbers, especially on YouTube. Please do subscribe to Unprecedented TV. Doesn't cost anything, but the numbers themselves, for reasons which take too long to explain, really do help us. So for the 1,000+ of you who are already with us, thank you very much. Let's make it 1 million at some point. In the meantime, of course, if you want to make a comment, go to the X. I tend to be very busy while we're doing the show, but afterwards, I'm always happy to engage with you, whether or not you're supportive. You will probably have realized by now, I'm not precious about that. You don't have to agree with what you hear to watch what you see here. Discussing this issue today is going to be Dr. Marcus Papadopoulos. Before I introduce him, let me set the scene. Donald Trump took his great big jumbo jet to Israel to pretty much force Benjamin Netanyahu to stop killing Palestinians. At the same time, he was putting Palestine and particularly Hamas under enormous pressure to return the hostages. Those are the hostages who have been detained for just over 2 years by the Hamas operatives. Well, it's been quite successful, in my opinion. First of all, the Hamas organization has returned all the living hostages to the jubilation of those who have been waiting patiently and keeping a lonely vigil in what's called Hostages Square in Tel Aviv. I think it's Tel Aviv. Might be Jerusalem. Let me just check that. Apologies for that. Get the team to check that. More importantly still, Hamas is apparently not fighting with Israel now, though there is some indication that continuing killings are taking place in Palestine of alleged collaborators. Hamas has been seen to be executing individuals who are blindfolded there. I haven't independently corroborated that, but that's what I'm told. However, Israel has either stopped or massively reduced its military activities in the area, so something has changed. Then, after Donald Trump spent hours longer than had been scheduled in Israel, that was pretty predictable. He went to Egypt, to Sharm el-Sheikh, which is also, I think, a fairly well-known holiday resort, to meet world leaders whom he had invited to set the stamp of approval on this peace process. Now, interesting things happened there. As always, Keir Starmer turned up for the photograph, having paid almost no useful part, as far as I can see, in the peace talks themselves. But it went badly, and we're going to talk about how it went badly for him. Even more importantly, Donald Trump had the great PR victory of having one-to-one photographs with just about everyone who attended. Not sure how many of them were happy to do that, but nevertheless, they did. Put all that together, and Donald Trump has scored a massive personal PR win. In addition, perhaps he's created the kind of political circumstances that genuinely mean there's going to be an improvement in terms of peace. And that's what we're going to find out and discuss with Dr. Papadopoulos in a minute. But then there's a Keir Starmer question as well. The world doesn't really care about this, but Britain should. Did Keir Starmer score an own goal in his performance, his activities at these talks? Many say yes, he's been ridiculed and also criticized for just turning up for the photo op without having any real justification. Is that fair? Maybe he did more than we think. Well, joining me to discuss all of that now is none other than Dr. Marcus Papadopoulos. Good to see you again, Marcus. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Lembit, and thanks ever so much, as always, for having me on your show.
It's always an honor to have you here because of your erudite insights. And let's start with the big question here. What do you make, before we talk about Starmer, what do you make of this apparently one-page peace deal, which many say is very light on detail?
I cautiously welcome the halt to the killing in Gaza. Indeed, any normal human being should support peace over war for the sake of civilians, in particular women and children. For over 2 years now, tens of thousands of Palestinian civilians have been killed. So anything that brings a halt to the killing of civilians in Gaza, I support and wholeheartedly support. My concern, it revolves around the long-term peace in Gaza. The details are very vague. So firstly, who exactly is going to administer Gaza? Secondly, how will Gaza be administered? And thirdly, whilst the White House has denied reports that US troops will be deployed to Gaza, they will be deployed to Israel, we are told, but they will not be deployed to Gaza, is something that does concern me, because if American troops enter Gaza, then that will paint a very different picture over this, quote, peace plan for the region. Mm-hmm. We must remember that history tells us that when American troops set foot on foreign soil, they rarely leave voluntarily. Going back to the point about who is going to administer Gaza, all of us have heard reports that Tony Blair could be given that position. If that was to materialize, then quite frankly, Lembit, I would be sickened to the depth of my stomach. I would be absolutely appalled. One of the worst war criminals in the world today, administering a region which belongs to another people, whom the people have no time for, whom the people would never want him to even set foot on their territory. So, in short, I welcome the halt to the killing in Gaza, but I am cautiously optimistic.
Just in terms of Tony Blair, that's pretty damning criticism of him there. Some would say that because Tony Blair played such a central role in getting it wrong in Iraq, he's desperate to redeem himself, and he spent the last 2 decades trying to repair his legacy. Wouldn't that be a reason to actually have him there, because he's so desperate to right the wrong which will forever stain his, or at least at the moment, looks like will forever stain his legacy?
Well, let me respond to that with an analogy. Someone commits murder or multiple murders. They are arrested, charged, and put before a court of law. And the person who has carried out the murder or the murders says to the court, I wish to be released because I understand I have done something terrible and I wish to be redeemed. Well, a court of law wouldn't listen to such an argument, if we can call it an argument. The person would be found guilty and would be sentenced to prison. So Tony Blair has a very, very long, dark track record of committing crimes against humanity, which started, of course, in 1999, when NATO commenced its illegal, murderous, and unprovoked war of aggression against the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. And in doing that, Tony Blair allied Britain with the so-called Kosovo Liberation Army, a notorious organized crime syndicate and also a notorious terrorist organization. Then, of course, we have Blair's illegal, murderous and unprovoked invasion of Iraq, which caused the deaths of hundreds of thousands, possibly 1 million Iraqi people. So Tony Blair, there is only one place for Tony Blair, and that is a jail cell where he should be for the rest of his life. And when I say a cell, a prison cell, I don't mean the the kind that you find today in Britain. No, I mean the kind you found in Victorian Britain.
It's pretty strong and pretty damning indictment of him. There he is, police as punched next to Donald Trump. Interestingly enough, it's argued that he actually had a better interaction with Trump than the existing Labour Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. We'll come to that. I'm kind of interested in having you back just to talk about Tony Blair. I didn't expect that level of venom. Not that you're unentitled, but that's an interesting point. Let's think about the performance of, before we look into the peace process and Starmer a bit more, let's look at the performance of Donald Trump in terms of Benjamin Netanyahu. Some say, many say, that Trump absolutely strong-armed Netanyahu to stop killing Palestinians. To what extent is Trump entitled to expect praise for doing that?
I think on the one hand, it is clear that Trump is beholden to the Israel lobby in America. But on the other hand, I sense that behind the scenes, there is tension between Trump and the Israeli leadership, and in particular, Netanyahu. I don't pay too much attention to the praise that Netanyahu heaped on Trump and the praise that Trump has heaped on Netanyahu on the past, because I believe that is mainly for public consumption. That said, some of the comments which Trump made yesterday to Netanyahu, for example, where he said, "There's no more war in Gaza, Bibi," or something to that effect, it's almost a way of Trump establishing himself as the alpha male over Netanyahu, because of course Trump and Netanyahu are both alpha males, but there can only be one alpha male under the same roof. So that is the way I interpreted some of Trump's comments towards Netanyahu.
Yeah, you make it all sound quite herd-like. I'm not disagreeing with you. I thought that the choreography that we saw, and we'll come to later, was quite obviously designed and unashamedly designed to put Donald Trump right in the middle of everything that was happening there. The 1+1 photographs, I'm sure the others can take selfies on their mobile phones, but the whole thing was set up to say, I, Donald Trump, I'm in charge. I'm making America great again. But just on this Netanyahu point, I interpreted what he said to the Knesset, which is the parliament of Israel, that the comments were directly intended to tell Netanyahu, you will not start this again.
Yes, I do believe that Trump is opposed to war. I believe that he's opposed to war on moral grounds, and also he believes that war is a waste of money. He believes in redeveloping cities. He believes in redeveloping towns and redeveloping regions. So yes, I believe that whilst Netanyahu sought to continue the war in Gaza, Trump, on the other hand, told it to him unambiguously behind closed doors that the war is going to end. My reservation, Lembit, is this: never, ever underestimate the Israeli leadership, especially in the context of the Israel lobby in America, because the Israel lobby in America wields enormous, extraordinary influence and power throughout the American government. So that is why I believe it's just too early to say for definite whether this is a sincere peace plan. If American soldiers go into Gaza, then that will change the dynamics. If Tony Blair or another foreigner is given the role of overseeing Palestinians on Palestinian territory, then again, that will change the dynamics. There is talk that the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank could be given the task of administering Gaza. Well, that would be somewhat better. But then on the other hand, it is very clear that the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank is now beholden to the Western ruling elites and also to the Israelis. And whilst I despise Hamas and have despised Hamas for many, many years, there is real evidence that links between the top leadership of Hamas and Israel have existed for decades.
Yeah, that's an interesting conundrum, which I want to really explore on another occasion, because it's confusing to people. Those who follow the politics of the Middle East would struggle to understand why Israel, with Netanyahu and his expressed hatred of Hamas, would want to sponsor Hamas. There's a phrase, false flag, which comes to mind, where they're trying to get Hamas to do bad things so that Israel can justify its actions. We're going to have to go to break in a minute, but you're talking about administering Gaza. There isn't really very much left to administer. I mean, you got this with an estimate of at least 14,000 bodies under the rubble. It's a complete bomb zone. It's actually more bombed out than Berlin was after World War II.
Yes, indeed. But it is still Gaza. It is still Palestinian territory. It is still inhabited by Palestinians, and it still belongs to Palestinians, regardless of the brutal Israeli military campaign there. It is still Palestinian soil and belongs solely to the Palestinian people. So I reiterate, it must be administered by Palestine. The West Bank and Gaza constitute what is known as the State of Palestine. So again, I don't want to see foreigners in Palestine, in any part of Palestine, be it Gaza or the West Bank.
And do you feel then that we're in a situation where that is a serious possibility, even though the peace document is very thin? It's one page versus something like 130 pages, I think, for a previous one.
Lembit, I am concerned about that. I do think it's more of a possibility than the likes of J.D. Vance are saying. Again, American troops will be deployed to Israel. We are told the number will come to around 200. Those troops could easily be increased in number. They could enter Gaza. There could be an attack on them, which of course could then pave the way for additional American troops being deployed to Gaza. If that was to happen, however, how would MAGA respond? Because one of the fundamental pillars of MAGA is this: no American troops being deployed abroad, no American involvement in wars abroad. So I think Trump has to be very careful with this.
Yeah. After the break, I want to talk with you, Dr. Papadopoulos, on Keir Starmer's performance and what seems to many to have been yet another terrible blunder when it comes to public relations, on the basis that he turned up for the photo opportunity, and the photo opportunity essentially went wrong. Is it the case that all he really does now is show up to be seen? Well, we're going to talk about that in a minute. You have your say as well. If you like what you're seeing here, please do subscribe to Unprecedented TV on YouTube. What you'll also get is a massive, massive spread of programs. You've got hundreds of shows there, literally, including Dire Consequences by Claire Dyer. She really puts herself on the line to highlight injustices in the United Kingdom. Sometimes it's very uncomfortable viewing, but it's compelling viewing all the same. That is dire consequences on this morning, actually, and regularly replayed. You can find the whole archive at Unprecedented TV on YouTube. And we really tackled difficult issues head on with that show. And massive credit to Claire. The amount of effort she puts into that show is phenomenal. So do please have a look at that as well. And as I say, do subscribe to Unprecedented TV on YouTube. I'm talking with Dr. Marcus Papadopoulos. And I want to go into a rather awkward aspect to the whole thing, certainly from, in my opinion, for Donald Trump and Keir Starmer's relationship. Trump did such a good job. He had all these people. There's Emmanuel Macron with Donald Trump. They seem to be really friendly. He grabbed hold of his hand in an unusual way. Photo opportunity after photo opportunity for all these national leaders. And it seemed to me that Keir Starmer was quite far down the track, and it just didn't go very well. Just before we talk about Starmer, this was a public relations goldmine for him, their Starmer eventually. This was a public relations goldmine for Donald Trump, wasn't it?
It certainly was. Donald Trump is a person who likes to be at the center of attention. And that is perfectly fine as far as I'm concerned, providing he delivers the goods. So it seems that he did bring about peace in Gaza. If he now seeks to lap up the attention as a result of that, then that sits comfortably with me. The most important thing is that he has halted the killing of civilians, men, women, and children, and of course, toddlers and babies in Gaza. So if he now wishes the spotlight of the world to be on him, then fine. And we should also say this: he has attempted to engineer peace in different parts of the world. He has tried, and it seems with Gaza, he has accomplished that. He should be given recognition. Indeed, he should be given the Nobel Peace Prize. But of course, he's not given that recognition by the Western ruling elites. And of course, one of their main tentacles, Western mainstream media, because the Western ruling elites are pro-war. And the Nobel Peace Prize lost all meaning many, many years ago. Let us not forget that just shortly into Obama's tenure, at the end of 2009, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. He hadn't secured peace anywhere in the world. He hadn't concluded a peace treaty anywhere in the world. Indeed, he had started drone wars, and yet this ghastly, horrific war criminal, who again should be sitting alongside Blair in a Victorian-style prison cell, was given the Nobel Peace Prize. So, like with every other institution, Lembit, in the Western world, the Nobel Peace Prize means nothing.
For me,
focus on deeds.
Yeah, for me, the moment that it lost credibility was when they gave it to Aung San Suu Kyi in Myanmar, because it was quite obvious that she, although she said she did it under duress, she was colluding in some way with the military junta there. But that's another story. Certainly, I do feel that there's this deep state establishment resistance to recognizing Donald Trump. I do quite a lot on X, and do follow me on X at Lembit Opik if you want to see what I say there. And oftentimes the trolls are saying, "Oh, how dare you talk up Donald Trump? He's no good," and everything else. They'd rather see war than a successful Donald Trump. But maybe you're right. What it is, they don't want Trump to be in because they prefer to have war, and they think Trump might be a problem for that agenda. Let's look at Keir Starmer's involvement. He turned up in the aeroplane and so on. And I actually have to say, when he turned up, he didn't look very statesmanly when he comes down these steps. We'll see him in a moment. And he did better than Macron did when he went over to the Far East. But Starmer comes down the steps not as a statesman. He just looks like a guy who's arrived on holiday. And then, of course, later on, and we'll look at the clip, it was just hugely embarrassing. Here he is. He just doesn't really look like a prime minister. He just looks like a man who's arrived to see his relatives or something. There's just a lack of stature. I'm not quite sure why, but he just doesn't look right. And I often think he doesn't look like he's part of the job. There's a bunch of people there. Hi, I'm your Uber driver. I'll take you to the hotel. Don't worry about your bags. That's how it feels. But the problem, I think, all the time with Keir Starmer is he just doesn't look the part. Your impression, first of all, what do you think overall of Keir Starmer? Then we're actually going to look at what looked like to me a terribly embarrassing moment that he was warned about, where Donald Trump appears to snub him. But what's your impression of Keir Starmer as an international statesman, Marcus?
Starmer is the principal puppet of the British ruling elite, or the British deep state, or however you wish to describe the forces which rule, not govern, which rule the United Kingdom. It follows, therefore, that Donald Trump bitterly dislikes Starmer. Why? Because Trump is acutely aware that the British ruling elite is one of his most dangerous of adversaries. Indeed, the British ruling elite attempted to destroy Trump's first tenure in power. So any opportunity which Trump has to humiliate the British ruling elite by humiliating its principal puppet, Starmer, Trump will take. How many times this year has Trump humiliated Starmer before the eyes of the world? Countless times. Indeed, in the White House earlier on this year, he mocked Starmer's voice because, as we know, Starmer has an incredibly ugly voice. So he bitterly dislikes Starmer. Why was Starmer there? Well, Starmer goes to where he is sent to. The British ruling elites wish to have a presence in all four corners of the world. They wish to maintain the illusion that the British establishment or the British ruling elite supports peace, which of course is inversion, because the British ruling elite equates to violence, it equates to war. So that is why Starmer was sent there. And when people say to me, how nice would it be, Marcus, for a snap general election to be held tomorrow and for Starmer to lose by a landslide? My response to that is this: he wouldn't care in the slightest bit. He is not like you, Lembit. He is not like other normal human beings. He doesn't have a soul. His eyes are dead. He doesn't care if he's humiliated. He doesn't care if he is embarrassed. That's not what galvanizes him in life. What he is about is being in that position, which brings certain rewards to him.
Let's have a look at what seemed clearly to me to be a moment of humiliation. Let's remember also, in addition to what you said, Marcus, it was Keir Starmer and the Labour Party who sent 100 current and former activists to help Kamala Harris's campaign to try and defeat him. He's not going to forget that. Now, in Sharm el-Sheikh, where he kept them all waiting for hours because he spent so much longer in Israel, they were all on the stage, and Keir Starmer managed to wheedle his way to stand quite close to and behind Donald Trump. And this is what happened. I think we've got the clip for this. There it is. So he basically says, where's the United Kingdom? He comes forward. He looks at the microphone. There's this little quick glance. Then he just turns away again. And there's Starmer, who walks back, the lonely walk. Absolute humiliation. I think we got a few stills of that as well. It seemed to me that Donald Trump did exactly what you said there. He was, whether intentionally or subconsciously, absolutely determined to undermine his credibility.
Yes, I can only reiterate, Lembit, that Trump despises the British ruling elite and therefore will jump at any opportunity to humiliate its puppets, including its principal puppet, Starmer. He is also humiliated the likes of Sadiq Khan. Now, again, people, in my opinion, focus far too much on puppets instead of focusing on the puppet masters. Yes, Sadiq Khan is a dreadful human being, but he's a puppet. Does anyone really believe that his successor will be any different, including if his successor is from the Conservative Party? And I say Conservative in a very loose way, because of course that's just a party controlled by the British deep state. So yes, Khan, Starmer, and the rest of them are absolutely appalling human beings, but they are implementing an agenda. They are following instructions, and that should be patently clear to everyone who observes British politics, or indeed American politics or German politics. The people you saw at Sharm el-Sheikh, again, even the likes of Macron, they are simply puppets. Have you noticed, Lembit, and I'm sure you have, they all say the same thing. They all believe in the same thing. They all do the same thing. That is simply impossible that the incumbents and then their successors all say and believe in the same thing. It only makes sense, of course, if they are puppets.
Let's look at the specific case of Keir Starmer. As it said, this was on the BBC with the subtitles on. United Kingdom, where is United Kingdom? And Starmer's standing right behind him. And I felt that that was a moment of utter tragedy for Starmer's credibility. And it didn't end there, actually. When they were all seated, I don't know if the seating plan was arranged on purpose, but Keir Starmer is right at the back, where on the right-hand side, roughly where the flags are, and all you can see is his hair. It's unimaginable that Reagan would have treated Margaret Thatcher like that, or that Clinton would have treated Tony Blair like that. And in the clip, which I've watched many times, the one we played, if you look, Keir Starmer gives it away. He glances at the microphone, clearly expecting to say something to the world and the assembled audience. But Trump simply dismisses him. It does seem that all the signs are here to support what you're saying, that Trump or his people are deliberately ostracizing Keir Starmer. Also, I assume that there was a seating plan for the picture we see there. There's no real special relationship at the moment, is there, between Britain and America?
Well, I have long said that the special relationship is a very vague, a very dubious term. But what is abundantly clear is that at present, behind the scenes, but also explicitly, there is a bitter struggle going on between Trump on the one hand, and on the other hand, the American and British deep states. Now, British mainstream media, which, as we all know, is neither free nor independent, attempts to depict Trump and Starmer as having a good friendship with one another, as enjoying a good rapport with one another. Well, that is akin to British mainstream media denying the very existence of human beings on planet Earth, because it is abundantly clear that human beings exist, and it is abundantly clear that Trump despises Keir Starmer. But of course, British mainstream media, like the politicians in the UK, follow orders. They are puppets. They are useful idiots. So the British deep state wants to portray the image that all is fine between Washington and London. And therefore, British mainstream media will say that Trump and Starmer enjoy a good rapport with one another. Well, the evidence before our very eyes says the complete opposite. British mainstream media is the epitome of deceitfulness.
Yeah, I find that when I listen to the state-sponsored station, the British Broadcasting Corporation, going on and on and on, they're very euphemistic about a couple of things. First of all, Hamas is having trouble finding the dead bodies because there are buildings on top of them. My assumption is that many of the hostages killed were killed by Israeli fire. Nobody wants to talk about that on the mainstream. It's interesting. If I had lost somebody in those circumstances, I would definitely want to know how and why they died. But in terms of what we're discussing here, they're giving Starmer a fairly easy ride. But the body language said it all. If there was any doubt about what you're saying now, Marcus, if you watch that 20-second clip in detail, we're not going to do it now, but if you watch it in slow motion, Trump, first of all, says, "Where's United Kingdom?" And he's right behind him. He summons, it seems to be the case, Keir Starmer with his hand like this, shakes his hand. Starmer looks at the microphone like that. I know, I'm a public speaker. I know that means he was sizing up the microphone. Is it in the right place? Is it the right height for me, Keir Starmer, to make a speech? And then Trump turns his back and Starmer's face falls and he does a classic mistake. He turns his back to the audience and walks right to the back of the stage. And then he stands there. Later on, he actually crosses his arms as well. It does seem to me that Trump has totally dismissed Starmer in a way. I've never seen a British Prime Minister being dismissed by an American president before.
Indeed. And I'm not aware of a British Prime Minister having been treated like that by an American president in public. Of course, behind the scenes, there has been tension between American presidents and British prime ministers. So, for example, during the Suez Canal crisis, there was very serious tension between Eisenhower and Eden. But certainly in public, there has never been this sort of treatment of a British prime minister before by an American president. And it just reinforces what I have said, that there is a struggle for power going on in the Western world between Trump on the one hand and the American and British deep states on the other hand. I am not, of course, attempting to depict Trump as a savior. I am not depicting him as someone who's going to liberate the Western world. But what I have said about him from day one is this: I will take anything good that he does, even if it's 5%, 10%, I will take it, because before him, we in Britain, in America, we received nothing, absolutely nothing. And Trump so far has, in my opinion, implemented a number of good policies. For example, sealing the border between America and Mexico. That is good. He has very clearly expressed his love for Britain and the British people, whilst at the same time clearly demonstrating his hatred for the British ruling elites. So I can only reiterate, I will take whatever good comes from the Trump presidency.
The 38 degrees is in the chat, and you can all be in the chat if you want. As Trump has experience in TV adverts and in showbiz, he's a pro actor. Starmer has no stage acting experience, and he's a corrupt crown prosecutor who helped undermine our rights. Not much positivity there from 38 degrees. Let me ask you, nearly out of time actually, but let me ask you then, in the context of all of this, we don't hear much about Ukraine anymore. Donald Trump, who clearly doesn't have time for Zelensky, nor do I. I think the guy's an amateur. He's literally a clown. That's his profession. And the state of Ukraine is desperately corrupt. But Donald Trump has unloaded this Ukraine problem on Europe. Keir Starmer is so keen on looking like the leader of the Western fighting to the flags on top of government buildings. It's preposterous. I'm wondering if this is just as Keir Starmer flew all the way to Egypt just to be embarrassed. And it was predicted. I predicted it. Other people predicted it. So also we see the rapid decline of Britain's credibility abroad. And of course, if that's right, then the last thing Vladimir Putin's going to be afraid of is a coalition of the witless run by Keir Starmer.
I believe that Trump genuinely tried to find a peaceful solution to the war in Ukraine, but he's never going to be able to do that. This is one of those issues that he will not be able to resolve.
Why not? Why not? Yeah, sorry. Go on.
Because it concerns Russia. Russia is a military and nuclear superpower. People might respond to that stupidly by saying, well, look at the slow pace of the Russian military campaign in Ukraine. Well, I can counter that by saying NATO has saturated Ukraine with military hardware. And at the same time, the Russian military does not wish to bring about colossal civilian casualties in Ukraine. Now, that's not Russian propaganda. That's not being a Russian apologist. If you know your history, you will understand that the only part of Ukraine where there is anti-Russian sentiment is in the westernmost place, which is historically known as Eastern Galicia, Lvov, Ternopil, and Ivano-Frankivsk. So people need to bear in mind that. But the Russian military, the Kremlin, has set itself the task of capturing not just the eastern part of Ukraine, but what I believe is at least 70% of the country, where the Russian army will advance to and capture the regions of Zhytomyr and Vinnytsia. And after that, I suspect the Russians won't go any further, because that is when they will be entering a region which is fervently anti-Russian because of the amount of Polish and Austrian and Hungarian and Lithuanian blood there. So Trump, even if he tries again to bring about a peaceful solution there, it's not going to happen, because the Russian leadership historically thinks in the long term. The Russian leadership historically thinks in terms of centuries. So by capturing either all or more probably most of Ukraine, that will ensure that the southern belly of Russia is guaranteed forever. And that will mean that NATO cannot threaten Russia in that part of the world.
Yeah,
whether it takes 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, the Russian military will keep on going.
Yeah, we've gone a bit further into the Ukraine. It's my own fault that I showed you the Ukrainian flag, which you see as a red flag to a bull a little bit. I could have predicted that, Marcus. I want to finish, and we'll talk more about that on another occasion, because it's all gone quite quiet in the Western media when it comes to the question of Russia, and I suspect that's because they're not too happy about what they have to report, which is progress by Russia, inexorable progress by Russia. But we'll talk about that on another occasion. I want to come back to where we started, Dr. Papadopoulos. Trump, big victory for him in terms of public relations. And it seems to me another decline in the credibility of the United Kingdom in Sharm el-Sheikh.
Yes, I agree. This cessation in hostilities in Gaza has been brought about by Trump and, of course, his administration. It's not, after all, a one-man show. So all credit to Trump and his cabinet for bringing about peace in Gaza. The one caveat I would attach to that is I sincerely hope it will be long-term peace.
And when it comes to the status of Britain, if you see whether this is a slightly better picture. Oh, incidentally, Hostages Square is indeed in Tel Aviv, as I assumed. And apologies for my ignorance on that. I always assumed it was a Tel Aviv location, actually. But if you look at this picture, you got Donald Trump right in the middle there signing things. And right on the right, it's a slightly cropped photograph, but you still get a picture of it. where the plant is, you just see the top of the British Prime Minister's head and a bit of his glasses. That's not what you'd expect if Donald Trump was taking Starmer seriously, is it?
Not at all. It symbolizes Trump's hatred of the British ruling elites.
Mm. And at the same time, of course, he's made America a lot greater than it was before in terms of the public view. If you had one piece of advice for Keir Starmer, maybe he's watching this as he's flying back with his head in his hands, what would be your advice to Keir Starmer?
Believe in God and be afraid of God.
Two things that he doesn't do. That's really interesting. I have to say, expecting my own views, if you profess atheism, you're professing a belief in meaninglessness. That's my opinion. There'll be viewers who disagree with that, but I think that's at the heart of it. If you were to say to Keir Starmer, what do you stand for? I think he'd be really hard pushed to answer it. He'd give you a tactical answer. He'd say things like better conditions for pensioners or better housing. He wouldn't understand the question, I think. Dr. Papadopoulos, very good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. That is Marcus Papadopoulos. You can have your say as well. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you do agree. Thank you for the vociferous contribution of 38 degrees, 38 degree of corporate V customer. It says, the right to life just written off by votes, maybe is the answer to what do you believe in. And if the world did put Putin jokes, he would squirm. Thank you for watching. Do have your say. We probably have, if you're watching this live, we probably have Nick Buckley on tomorrow, but lots of other great shows today as well. So do keep watching. And if you missed something, go to the archive and subscribe to Unprecedented TV on YouTube. The more subscribers we have, the more we can do. For now, though, very grateful to Marcus, our guest, very grateful to the team, but more than anything, grateful to you for taking the time to watch. I hope you learned something. I'm Lembit Opik. That was Lembit Opik Live here on Unprecedented TV. Have a good day.